Well, it's Tuesday Wrestling, and you know what that means. So it's once again we get to review AEW Dark and Impact Wrestling, but also going to throw in another treat for you guys. Uh, I finally saw this Scottish promotion that's affiliated with AEW. It's called Insane Championship Wrestling, or as we call it, ICW. So let's review, discuss, and talk about on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that it's pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I'm your host, J-Rod here. So let's begin with AEW Dark. They had some interesting matches that they had. I think they had about 11 matches and it went up over an hour and a half. So let's start with the first match. We got Powerhouse Hobbs representing Team Taz alongside with Hook taking on Angel Fashion. But as you can guess, Powerhouse Hobbs actually won the match. You can guess by his name is a statement. Next match is a tag team match. We got Azrael and Danny Limelight taking on SCU's Christopher Daniels and Kazarian. It was a really good match on their part, even though it was like even though we've been seeing SCU participate in Dark a lot, but I think they're trying to keep up to give like the younger guys more exposure. But it was a good match, not one of the best ones so far, but we're yet to see more of the best matches. Of course, SCU won the match. My bad. Sorry. Next match is a three-way, no, a six-man tag team match. First team is Aaron Solo, Brick Aldridge, and Dean Alexander taking on Caesar Bononi and Ryan Mineth and Pretty Peter Avalon. Now, all of the teams, the first team, Solo, Aldridge, and Alexander, they all came out with the Nightmare family jackets. I'm not sure if the other two guys, Aldridge and Alexander, are still in the Nightmare factory training. However, the reason this match was set, if you guys recall, they attacked Aaron Avalon, Benoni, and Mineth attacked Solo. So basically, it was. I'm not sure if Solo's looking for payback after what they did, but frankly, um, it wasn't enough. Thanks to Benoni, who's the most powerhouse in the team, won the match. Next match, we have another member of the Nightmare family, Lee Johnson taking on Baron Black. Now, we can say that Lee Johnson is now improved a lot in this match because we saw his big win and it was phenomenal. And can't wait to see more what he can do. And we can say he does have a bright future in AEW. So he won his match. Next match we had the Dark Order, Colt Cabana, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, and Alex Reynolds taking on Aaron Fryer, D3, John Cruz, Very Morales. Now, there was a big moment I did like. As you know, that Sky Colt Cabana has a very interesting move called the Chicago Skyline, where he has his opponent on top of his shoulders and he's on top of the second turnbuckle. As when he was about to do the Chicago Skyline, the other members, he had John Cruz on his shoulders, so the others were trying to stop him from doing that. And of course, Colt was holding on to him. He's like, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. And basically, the other three members of the opposing team tried to help, but it was funny. But it did allow for Colt Cabana to win his match. So it was pretty cool. So okay, let's see that again. Again, it's a lot more fun. Next match we have a tag team. We got the Varsity Blondes taking on Ryzen and Cameron Stewart. Uh, Another example. I do like the Varsity Blondes, and of course they won this one. Next match we have a women's match. We have Diamante versus someone who I don't know. I don't know if I ever seen her. Savannah Thorne. Um, but I can speed up this one. You know, Diamante is a very tough competitor, so she won her match. Next match is the match we all been hearing. If you guys been paying attention on Sammy's vlogs, QT Marshall versus Fuego del Sol. Now, we were expecting Fuego to actually pull off the tornado DDT. He did, but somehow QT Marshall got out, and of course, QT applied the diamond cutter on him to allow himself to win the match. I mean, it was a good match, but the real question is, can Fuego get a job in AEW? I think that's one of the things that many people want to see. Next match, we have Carly Bravo taking on Kip Sabian. We all know Kip Sabian is a great athlete. He does bring a lot of that into the table. And he did mention that, he probably felt that he should have been on Dynamite, but it didn't happen that way a whole lot. So he did win his match. Next match, we have another women's match, Abaddon versus Catalina Perez. But you guys can guess Abaddon won. Yes. She's still scary, even if you guys pay attention to that. Now, the next match, we have Santana and Ortiz taking on Sunny Kiss and Joey Janela. I have to say, this was one of the best matches of the night. Reason is, they took out Joey Janela, Santana Ortiz, but he was nowhere to be found. He was like in the opposite side. But Sunny took a lot of beating, but he was able to, how do I say this, hold it in there until Joey showed up. But however, Santana Ortiz are still a good tag team. But right now, like many of us are saying, why isn't there not being the tag team for the inner circle? I think that's one of the things that people talk about. But we'll see what that happens. So I think that's it for now with AEW. So let's move on with the go home show on Impact Wrestling. Alrighty, so we're in the final go home show before this Saturday's Sacrifice. We have in the first match Tasha Steelz along with Kara Hogan taking on Jazz, who's being accompanied by Jordan Grace. As you know, these ladies are competing this coming Saturday for the Knockouts Tag Team titles, which is going to be on the line. So we're going to see a singles competition. Now, you can say about Jazz, she hasn't missed a step, and that's really a good thing. But however, when it comes to Tasha Steelz, you know who has her back to ensure she wins the match. But not this time. Jordan Grace made sure of it. It did allow Jazz to win her match. Now, we all know what's going to happen this Saturday also on Sacrifice. ODB is a four-time Knockouts champion. Everybody knows it, and she knows she has her work cut out to take on the virtuosa Diana Perrazzo. But however, Susan has already had her issues with ODB, who's of course on the side of Diana, and she's saying that she doesn't need her friends, that she's gonna do this one on one. So basically, she was looking for this, but frankly, you know, hope she knows what she's doing. Now, as you know, recently last week we saw Sammy Callahan goes to the wrestling school where Trey Miguel trained and, of course, learned. He still goes out saying that Trey has no passion. He attacked everyone because he thinks that what Trey did, that he left Impact Wrestling and he quit, that he had no passion at all. That wasn't the case. So Trey is trying to show him that he is more passionate than him, but he wants to prove what a fraud he is. He took out everyone except one guy named Sam Beal. He told him that he sees potential in him and all this, and it got to his head. And of course, Sam Beal confronted Trey, telling him that Sammy was right. He has no compassion. Trey cannot stand the fact that he's getting up in his business, accusing him being a faker, a fraud, an imposter, that he quit Impact before and then he came back. So he did not want to fight him in the upcoming match, but of course he had no other choice. But he did warn him that he was going to kick his ass. Now, the next interesting match, we have Shira and Rohit Raju taking on Chris Sabin and James Storm. This broke away a couple weeks ago when James Storm whacked Rohit Raju with the bottle in his head, and then he got into his face at Swingers Palace. So this match was set. I mean, it seems like it was going great, but however, Rohit Raju acts like he's the bigger star. So what he does, he tried to tell Shera what he's doing. Like he had the match in his grasp, but for Shera, he does not like it where he's about to do something and he got in the way. And because of that, it cost them the match, allowing for Sabian and Storm to pick up the victory. Now, as you know what happened last week, Reno Scum teamed up with Triple XL to take on the Good Brothers and Finjuice, but however, they're still arguing. But out of nowhere, here comes Decay, getting under the skin of Triple XL once again. But they made another mistake when they decided they want to challenge Decay in Sacrifice. Well, Reno Scum, you're going to mess with the bull. I'm talking about Black Taurus. You don't want none of that. And it's going to be interesting to watch. And of course, Crazy Steve called them freaks. Well, it's a freak show. Now, as you know what happened a couple weeks ago, Diener screwed up. He thought he can put his cousin out, and he didn't. Last week, the leader of the group, Violent by Design, Eric Young, and Joe Dorian, beat him up to teach him a lesson. Now, here comes Storm and Sabian, who known Eric Young for 20 years. They're trying to get to tell him what is his problem. And of course, started a little friction with these guys once again. And of course, they got beat up, and it was a 3-on-2 scenario. So it kind of went bad for them. Now, you know, for months now with Brian Myers, who he is the self-proclaimed professional wrestler, he's been trying to prove a point that, of course, Eddie Edwards is unprofessional because the way he wrestles, the way he is. He even tries to get Scott D'Amore to fire Eddie Edwards. But however, he had a better idea. Instead of taking this to court, he told him, how about you two settle this once and for all in a hold harmless match, which is no rules. You can do whatever you want. Bring weapons. Now, this is the last thing that Myers wants. He claims he's professional, that he uses weapons, but he claims that he doesn't. So basically, let's see how professional he can get. And I think he does not, and it makes it so much fun that it's going to not end well for him. Now we get to the match we've been waiting with Trey Miguel and Sam Beal. Now, Trey knows that what Sami Callihan has been doing get into his head. And once again, Sammy tries to get into his head. But however, the match ended in the favor of Trey Miguel. He goes out to beat him, but the lights turned off and he pile drive Sam Beal. Once again, Sam Beal paid the price for believing Sammy. I mean, and yeah, and Trey, has to watch this wrestler who's been training in the same school where he went pay the price. Now we get a little interesting message with Sabin and Storm. They said they want to settle this in sacrifice, and that's what they did. But however, they got a visitor. That visitor is none other than cousin Jake, who informed them that they know that he knows for a fact Eric Young is going to be there. So he's asking them, "Let me have your back." He knows what these guys are going to do, and of course James Storm, he's cool with it, and of course they shook hands on that. Now, once again, we have the advertisements of AEW with the fact that there have some big matches coming up on Dynamite. But however, the biggest surprise was seeing that a former champion from Impact and former WWE champion as well, Christian Cage, is going to make his announcement about his intentions being there. I can't wait to see that. I know everybody in Impact fans are probably curious too. Now, we get to a very interesting contract signing for the Impact World Tag Team titles between the Good Brothers, the champions, and challengers Finjuice. It's funny that they started out doing the drinking game. I thought it was funny, and of course Finjuice got into their head once again, and they even signed the contract, but it ended in a melee, in a like a brawl. They go to a bar. I thought it was cool. Now the next match we have, this match was already set from last week, as you know. This Saturday we have um, Ace Austin, who's in line for a X Division title shot against TJP at Sacrifice. Chris Bay felt it should have been him, but of course he did tell him, "You can't win the match without Madman Fulton by your side." But he did tell him, "I'll fight him." And majority of the time, you see Fulton was being sitting down watching the match, but there was a moment he did help. Well, kind of ran interference a bit in front of Chris Bay, but however, things did not go well for Ace Austin. TJP shows up, watching the match, sitting down. Fulton ran after him, but however, it did allow Chris Bay to take advantage and pick up the victory. Now, does this mean is Chris Bay could get a title shot? I'm not sure, but we'll just wait and see what happens at Sacrifice. Now, back in Swingers Palace, once again, TJP made another bet about how the match was going to lose. Basically, he betted that Chris Bay was going to win, and he did. But however, he was confronted by someone who we all know, Josh Alexander, who's now stepped up the X Division game. He feels that TJP is disrespecting the X Division, but he said that he will be waiting for him once after Sacrifice is over. And I think that kind of put him in a worried state, which is interesting because we have seen Josh Alexander compete for the X Division title before. I mean, he's not a high flyer, but he is an excellent submission specialist. That's what, or his nickname is dubbed the Walking Weapon, which is not an understatement, but more like it's who he is. Now, things are dissolving between the relationship between Shera and Rohit Raju. Rohit kind of reminded Shera that he owed him, but of course, Shera would not take that too kindly, so he kind of squeezed his head and left him up in the wall, telling him he doesn't owe him a thing. So could this mean the Shera and Rohit relationship ended? We'll just wait and see what happens next week. Now, we have a match. The match between ODB and Susan was kind of interesting. As you know, ODB was in fact dominant, but however, there's an old saying for all you guys who drink alcohol. Me, I don't drink that much. Or ever. Whatever it goes. But anyway, you do not toss someone's alcohol out. That's kind of like taking away King Kong's bananas. You get the analogy? So basically, Susan made the mistake in tossing the alcohol in ODB's flask, and of course, allowing her to win the match. But however, the whole thing was a setup. Kimberly and Deonna Purrazzo showed up and beat her down. But however, here comes Jordan Grace and Jazz to give ODB the helping hand. But however, the Knockouts Tag Team Champions showed up to give another. They're making a statement. As you know, Deonna Purrazzo will not tolerate ODB, who is stepping in her world, saying that this is the age of the virtuosa. And as for Fire and Flavor, Karen Hogan and Tasha Steelz, they're gonna prove that they're not that this is their world, that no one's gonna stop them. But however, all three of these women are putting their titles on the line this Saturday. Now we get to the news that said there was a ramification for the Impact World title. It starts out with the Moore in his office talking to someone, and I was wondering who could that be. But however, once again, this guy has no patience. He wants answers. So the Moore goes out. He calls out Rich Swann, saying that this is important to him. However, it turns out for this Saturday's event in Sacrifice, whoever wins this match will before I say it, he goes out saying that he's got sick and tired of Moose proclaiming that he is the real world champion. He did not win the TNA title at all. He disrespected the title, claiming that he won it. And a couple weeks ago, he said that you wanted this title to be something, fine. But he also did something that is now shocking, or should surprising. It turns out this match on the main event on Sacrifice is going to be whoever wins the match. Both titles will be unified. If Rich Swann wins, he not only retains the Impact World title, he will gain the TNA World Heavyweight title. Same situation with Moose. If he retains the TNA World title, he gets the Impact World title. But that's not the biggest thing that came out. It turns out whoever wins this match, it will not stop with just unification with both titles. Whoever wins this match will get a shot to also claim the AEW World title. I mean, that is huge. So it looks like they're going to the story about Kenny collecting the belts. And this will take place in the next pay-per-view in April. Rebellion. But it did reveal who's behind that. Once again, the invisible hand strikes again. I'm talking about Don Callis. Now, I will do a video talking about the storyline between this whole thing with Kenny Omega and Moose. Something that kind of brought my attention on this. So right now, I'm going to end it with reviewing for the first time Insane Championship Wrestling. All right, the last thing I want to do is review this promotion that I don't know if any of you guys know about or ever heard of them. This is a promotion out of Glasgow, Scotland called Insane Championship Wrestling, or with an acronym known as ICW. These guys are also affiliated with WWE. I think their shows are being broadcast on the WWE network. Uh, I've heard a lot of good things from them. They're really amazing. I did hear about one of their previous champions who passed away all of a sudden. I mean, it was sad to hear about it, but yeah. But I never seen a lot of their shows. But I'm going to review that right now. Much like any show, like WWE's having Raw or SmackDown, or NXT or AEW having Dark and Dynamite, these guys have what they call Fight Club. Now, keep in mind, not a lot of these wrestlers I'm familiarized. I do know that one of their current world champion is NXT star Noam Dar. Now, you probably ask us, why would he be in that if he's in NXT UK? Keep in mind, many of the wrestlers in NXT UK can wrestle with other promotions in the UK as long as they are in agreement with something. I don't know. It's kind of a bit of a long story, but that's for another conversation for another time. Now, the first match is from a guy named Luke Cairo versus Luke King Sharp. Now, that match was very interesting. I have to say, Luke Cairo, he's a bit of a very interesting wrestler to watch. As for Luke King Sharp, he kind of reminds me a bit of Cameron Cameron Grimes, but not with like the hillbilly attitude. But it was good. But the match kind of shifted when Luke King Sharp kind of was distracted with someone. I didn't see clearly who it was, but as soon as the match was over, he just went out looking for the guy. A lot, but it did allow for Luke Cairo to win in a pinfall match. Next match we have John Trenton taking on Kez Evans. Now Kez Evans, he has this briefcase. I think he has a title shot or something. But however, this other his opponent John Trent, he was good. He was able to take on a bigger guy, but however, um, Evans was able to win this match. But he wasn't done with him. He whacked him with the briefcase in post match, telling him that he didn't deserve anything. Basically, he acts like he deserves every opportunity that's been given to him. Now, this next match, we have this guy named Saqib Ali taking on Ravy Davy. This guy is like a wannabe hip hopper in England or something, or Scotland. Now, Ravy Davy has been looking very good, but there were moments in his life he said that he wants to obtain gold. From what they're saying, I like what he was doing. I don't know. They didn't say much about Saqib Ali, but on various occasions he tried to take out Ali, but no dice in that department. But he was able to do it. So he won his match. Now, the next match we have Alex Parker taking on Craig Anthony. The match was really good. Now, it appears that from what I saw, Craig Anthony could won his match, but however, it didn't. Kaz Evans shows up once again and takes out Craig Anthony. Referee did not stop the match or call it a DQ. He put Alex Parker on top of Craig Anthony, allowing him to win the match. I'm like, why did no one call it DQ? It didn't make no sense. But it is what it is. Next match, we have Jason Reed taking on Charles Vice. It's VYCE, not VYI. VIY, VICE. You know what I mean? Uh, Interesting match. Jason Reed kind of reminds me a little bit of the guys from Imperium, but in a different attitude. But it was a good match. As for Charlie Vice, good, but yeah, like I said, I don't know more of these guys, but it was a good match. But Jason Reed caught my attention. He seems uh, like I said, he acts like more a bit of the Imperium guys, but that's just me talking. Now, this next match went a little quicker. It's Dustin Alexander taking on a guy named Sweeney. It just ended in like less than 2 minutes. Sweeney is a huge guy, and he took out Dustin Alexander like he was nothing. Now, the main event is the Lionheart League final match. This is for a shot of the world title. This is between from Stevie Boy and someone who appears on NXT UK, Shaw Samuels. Now, Shaw Samuels had an interesting story in this one. He claims that all the years he's been with ICW always ends in disasters with him not winning, but this time he feels it's his time to shine. Stevie Boy is like the new guy who claims, I get it, you are trying to make a name for yourself, try to prove that the last few years didn't mean nothing, but this is my time. So basically, it was like that, but it was a good match. Telling the story, you got this guy who spent years with ICW, and then you got this newcomer who feels uh, it's his time to shine now, that he earned it more than Shaw Samuels. But however, it did not end like that. It ended with Shaw Samuels winning the Lionheart League, and he will get a shot of the world title against Noam Dar. Don't know when, but there are more videos that I saw. I saw this on that link I told you guys, watchwrestling.la. So I think that's it for now for me reviewing AEW Dark and Impact Wrestling, but also giving you guys some new stuff like I did with the last episode. So, but I will do a video explaining more about the concept story of the world title collector. Let's call that. But right now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time, next DWZ channel on the same DWZ channel. So I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day.